Okay, Dredge. Change increased movement speed while charging Rain of Darkness to 3.8. Okay, that's a little bit. I don't know what 3.68 to 3.8 is, but basically, while you're holding your Remnant, you move a bit faster. I think that's a good change. I did want them to I did want them to increase that speed, and so they did do that. If it was they're basically the same speed that Piggy goes now while she's crouched. So I that's pretty good. You can zoom in on the screen. Can you zoom in on the screen any? Yeah, we can do that. There you go. Is that good? I think that's pretty good. Okay. Increase teleport speed outside of Nightfall to 19 meters per second. Damn. Okay. That's really good. This was one of the other issues. I felt like if you're teleporting, if you're teleporting to a locker and you're not in Nightfall, it is so slow compared to killers now that we have like Unknown that have come out where it's instant. It just made no sense to me because not only is Dredge's teleport situational, it was so slow. And so it was just like Unknown was putting the teleport to shame almost because he could choose where he wanted it and it was instant. So this is a great speed. This is probably the 25% increased teleport speed base kit. There was an add-on that increased it by 25% while not in Nightfall. Now that add-on seems to be base kit, if not more than that. Reduce teleport cooldown outside of Nightfall to 10 seconds was 12. Okay, good. Decrease the time to break out of a locked locker to 2.25. So they made Hattie's locker base kit. 3 seconds was just ridiculous. So I think this is a good change. They could even decrease it down to 2 seconds, and I think it would be fine. Uh, But this is basically that yellow add-on that decreases it by a second base kit, so it's 0.75. Increased charge rate of the Nightfall meter to 1 charge per second per injured survivors was 0.75, so you get Nightfall more often. Great change. Reduce, so this is everything I said. I wanted faster movement speed, holding down the Rain of Darkness, faster teleport speed outside of Nightfall, and then faster breaking out of the locker. So this is literally everything you can ask for in a Dredge buff. Reduce the volume of Dredge sound effects to make it harder to detect. Oh, that's a huge change, actually. That was another one. Now, when he's in Nightfall, he's not going to be a loud, moaning ghost. He'll be able to... He'll be able to actually, like, jump scare people like he's supposed to. Several add-on changes. Okay, that's cool. I'll be interested to look at those. We've increased the Dredge movement speed while both charging its power and while teleporting outside Nightfall to give it a slight boost in both strength and feel. The Dredge could have difficulty taking advantage of the reduced visibility in Nightfall due to their loud sound effects when approaching, so we have reduced their volume. We've also incorporated part of the effects of some must-have add-ons into the base kit and then toned them down accordingly. That's great. Doctor. Didn't Doctor just receive a buff? This is interesting to see. Reduce static blast cooldown to 30 seconds if no survivors are in range. So if nobody's in range, he gets his big shock back faster. Interesting. Reduce static blast cooldown to 45 seconds if a survivor is in range. Okay, so they just overall reduced the timer to get his static blast back, and then it's even faster if nobody's in range, so you can help detect people. Increase movement speed while charging static blast to 2.9. See, like that's not going to do anything in chase. It'll make it so if you do it while you're chasing someone, you won't lose as much distance. So I guess that's cool, but this is very minor. Faster cooldown, um, and faster charging rate. Adjust the static blast cooldown add-ons accordingly. An interesting small change. This is... I don't even know if I could call this a buff. This is more like a rework because they just made his add-ons that decreased it base kit, right? The only thing that's really unseen is that he's moving faster, but this doesn't let him... It doesn't let him M1 afterwards quickly. It doesn't let him do anything. It's more just... It's not as strong as the Deathslinger moving faster while he's reloading, you know? This is just more like quality of life. So it's good. Dr. Static Blast can be a helpful tool for players who struggle to find survivors, but the long cooldown makes it punishing to miss. We've reduced the Static Blast cooldown slightly if a survivor is affected, and reduced it much further if nobody's in range. I think that's a cool change. We've also increased the movement speed while charging a Static Blast to make it feel better to use. Okay. Nemesis! Interesting. Nemesis is on the weaker side of killers. He's definitely not Wesker tier, so he does deserve some buffs. I just never thought I'd see it, honestly. Requirement for reaching mutation rate 2 has been reduced to 5 contamination points, was 6. So 1 contamination point is, I don't know how big that is, but if it's like hitting a survivor one less time, I think that's pretty big. Increase the hindered penalty duration when infecting a survivor to 2 seconds, was 0.25. That's huge. Wait, that's huge. Because before there's a green add-on, right, that increases it by like something percent, and whatever percent of 0.25 was meaningless. So that add-on that was green that increased the duration was, oh yeah, it's called a liquor tongue. It was useless. It was absolutely useless because it didn't do anything to 25%. But now when you get hit by his tentacle and you're not infected, so this is basically, if you're not infected and he hits you, you know how you usually get a speed boost? Instead, this is going to hinder you, which is great because it basically gave survivors a third health state for no reason. Survivors were getting a third health state because you had to hit them 3 times. So this will make it so they don't get as much distance from the tentacle hit, and that's significant because 2 seconds is way longer. That's a second, 1.75 seconds longer. So now this will help his chase a lot, his early game a lot, because if you're only going to be able to get your hits through tentacle, uh, and you're only going to be able to get your downs through tentacle, you're not going to be giving them tons of distance ahead of you to have to catch up. So I think that's great. And then obviously this add-on is basically Marvin's Blood base kit, so they probably down-tuned that. And then this add-on is an insane increase to Liquor Tongue base kit, so that's really good. To help him get up and running, we've reduced the requirement for the Nemesis to reach mutation rate 2. This effectively means the Nemesis can reach mutation rate 2 in his first 3 tentacle strikes on a single survivor. That's interesting. So literally 1 down on a survivor, he gets tier 2. Hindered effect caused by infecting survivor was previously very short, making its effect inconsequential. Yeah, it was useless. We've extended the hindered effect to last throughout the speed boost the survivor gains, so it's the entire speed boost for being hit with the tentacle, reducing the amount of distance they gain. That's a great change. I like it. Perk buffs. Oh, these seems like these all survivor ones? Oh, they are. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's look at these perk buffs. Reduce the activation requirement to 40%. Yeah, I mean, I love Blast Mine. This will make it easier to do our thing, Kamui. 40% generator repairs. Does this make it practical? No, but let's be honest. That's not why you're using Blast Mine. We've slightly reduced the repair. They know the people who use this perk. It's not to be value or practical. It's just to be memes and stun the killer. Uh, but not so easy that it becomes annoying to face. This would also make it easier to activate Blast Mine when repairing a generator with other survivors. That's the key point here. Now you can get double cooldown. Wiretap 40%. Yeah, that's cool. I like that change. Wiretap can be very useful, though since the killer must be nearby, it's always risky of being destroyed. To get it back up of running sooner, reduce the repair requirements. Yeah, that's a good change. And good reasoning too. Chemical trap reduced activation requirement to 20%, was 50%. So they're making this more on par with Champion of Light, because if you think about it, Champion of Light slows the killer down by 20% for 6 seconds, and it's only on a cooldown. There's no activation condition. So it makes sense to put this down on a lower cooldown. But now you can pair them together even easier. You're going to have Chemical Trap up all the time. Oh, but the trade-off is they reduce the cooldown, so the killer can wait out the thing if they want to. I mean, I'm not going to be waiting out a minute for the pallet to get rid of the chemical trap. I'll just break it anyways, but I think it'll be funny, because now you're going to see some of those. I see a bunch of TikTok videos of the killer refusing to break a chemical trap pallet, and they just loop the pallet for 20 years because they don't want to break it so bad. So there'll be tons of funny videos like that. Chemical Trap's previous requirement was a little steep for the effect granted. We have significantly reduced the repair requirement to allow it to come into play more often. At the same time, we've reduced the trap's lifespan so the killer has more choice in whether or not to break certain pallets until the trap is expired. Cool. This perk just came out. I'm surprised to see we're getting a change to it. Activation requirement to 20%. Reduced duration is 60 seconds, was 120. I don't think it needed a duration decrease, but I do appreciate the 20%. While fun to use, Mirrored Illusion tends to not be a game changer. We have significantly reduced the activation requirement to really make the killer question what is real. So there's more of them up. Okay, I get that. Maybe because the duration is decreased, you get to use it. That's probably what it is. It's not a nerf. These aren't nerfs to the actual duration it's on there. It is making it shorter. That way you can start rebuilding another one faster. So that way you're not stuck waiting for that one to dissipate after the gen's already completed or something like that. Dance With Me. Reduce the cooldown to 20 seconds. Was 40. Honestly, Dance With Me was a very niche perk to run with live. So you vault a window and you get no scratch marks after you vault the window and you disappear. But having a 20-second cooldown of no scratch marks is probably going to make it an insanely good looping perk. Because 20 seconds is very viable to have more than one time in a chase. And that's like on par with the 30 seconds for finesse. So if you pair Dance With Me with finesse, you vault really fast and then you get no scratch marks. Even if you don't get live, it'll make the killer hard to. It'll make it for hard. It'll make it harder for the killer to track you, even if you stay at the same tile. Because if you vault the window and go around the corner, they're not gonna have any clue that you went around the corner if they lose line of sight on you. So very good change. Uh, long with Mii's long cooldown meant it realistically would not activate more than once per chase for many players. We've reduced this significantly to create more opportunities to shake the killer, if only momentarily. And I like to see Deception down here too. Deception 20-second cooldown. Deception, when it came out, one of my favorite perks. Very silly. I definitely think this reduced cooldown will be nice. Try it out. You could probably run Deception, and I might actually do a video when this Pete Speed comes out being like the lose the killer build, because I want to start doing more survivor themed build or survivor themed videos where I'm like showcasing a build, right? Because most of the times when I do survivor gameplay, that's just like raw gameplay we've had on stream. Technically they don't really do too well, so I think if we have like a themed build it could be cool. And this is already giving me ideas. These are all giving me ideas, honestly. These are all just fun perks. Like, they're not meta perks. These are purely fun buffs, and I like that. I like to see that. Lesser used perks getting buffs they deserve. Diversion, yeah, these are just another fun perk. Reduced activation requirement to 20 seconds was 30. Okay. Oh my god, I'm gonna get pebbled so much as killer now. Imagine we go in and we just bring 4 pebbles, and then there's constantly notifications. The killers don't know where to run to because there's so many pebbles everywhere. This is much stricter than a typical cooldown, so we have cut the requirement down significantly. This should also make it easier for killers who are constantly in stealth mode like Ghostface and Wraith, so I like that change. Flashbang? Wait, okay, this is kind of a meta perk. I think Flashbang is very strong when used in the right hands, because you can use it to flashlight save someone even if the killer is facing the wall. You just have to like squeeze in and then drop it underneath the killer's feet, and then even if the killer's facing the wall, it can still blind them and make them drop a survivor. So the fact that we're going to be getting it 40% instead of 50 is a huge change. That means without even finishing an entire gen, I can have 2 flashbangs at the ready. Very, very cool change. Prestige. Prestige levels are no longer shown in the pregame. It's about darn time. We've been asking for that for so long. Now killers won't be tunneling the P100s or going for the baby Prestige 1s or the Prestige 0s, you know? I think that's a great change. It's always been a great change. Seeing a high prestige level causes some players to feel intimidated and leave the lobby. This has a negative effect on matchmaking and discourages players from playing their favorite survivors. Prestige levels will no longer be shown in the pregame lobby. They will remain visible after the match has ended, so you can show off your accomplishments. Great change. I mean, you can still look at people's accounts. Um, yeah, you can see how many hours and stuff they have, right? But it's not gonna see. I mean, those are for like the real sweats. The only time I look at accounts are when we're loading in, and I just want to see what funny shit they have on their Steam profile. I don't generally look at their hours. Hook stages. Increased duration of hook phases to 70 seconds was 60. Whoa. Oh. Out of all the changes we've seen, this is probably the biggest gameplay impact. Because this will infect the competitive DBD scene very, very significantly. Like, extremely significantly. Because this isn't something they can ignore. They can't force their people to unhook at 60 seconds or 10 seconds sooner. Like, for competitive scene, they didn't like that DBD added the auto unhook when the killer's camping, because the competitive scene sees camping as a legit strategy, which it is. It is a strategy, and I agree with that. Um, However, they make it in competitive DBD, you are not allowed to unhook yourself even if the anti-camp bar fills up. And so they just ignore that feature. But you can't ignore this feature. So this is going to be used in competitive DBD, and one of the biggest time savers for competitive DBD is that they will let a teammate sit on hook and even go second hook just so they can get extra gens done. So if they know the killer's camping, right, and they can't unhook somebody because of the anti-camp system, like ban, not allowed to unhook yourself, or the killer's proxying too far away, they will let the teammate go from first hook to second hook to get the maximum amount of time all three of them working on gens. Because if the killer's proxying or camping, now this is just going to give survivors 10 extra seconds per stage to work on gens. That's 20 extra seconds per hook state for per person. So if you think about that, was that 20 times 4 in a match? That's 80 extra seconds you get to work on gens. If you unhook the survivors at the last second, that gives you about 76 seconds. Bare last second. So you get 70, almost an extra minute to work on gens if the killer's camping. So this is going to heavily punish killers who proxy camp or camp, and it is also going to make it so if you're on the hook and the killer is proxy camping and you know that it like, you know those killers who proxy camp and then it only fills up a tiny bit of your meter. Now that you have 10 extra seconds, that meter will have more time to fill up. So you have an even greater chance to unhook yourself now because you won't be going second stage for longer and you won't be dying for longer. So that trapper match we had, Kamui, where it barely filled up all the way before I died, I would have guaranteed got it. And then, I mean, we still got it anyways, but it'll help a lot for camping. I do think this is going to make it very difficult for killers who rely on camping. Um, and I'm not saying rely on camping like it's a bad thing, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, if the killer has to rely on camping, they're just bad. They're just a bad killer. They have to rely on camping. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, you can say all this stuff you want, but in and at the best possible highest skill level of Survivor, there is some camping that is needed. Not like straight up face camping, but proxy camping, right? There's some level of face camping, or not face camping, some level of proxy camping you need to ensure that you can go back and tunnel the survivor off of their hook once they get unhooked. Because there are matches when you are reversing for insanely the best survivors you've ever reversed, and there's gonna be no way for you to win unless you make it a 3v1 as soon as possible. There's a clip of Hens that I'm thinking about. I don't know if you guys know who Hens is. Hens is he's a very influential in the DVD community, but basically he says if you're facing good survivors, the only way, the literal only way you can ever beat them is if you make it a 3v1 as fast as possible. That's the way you beat them. And that's if the survivors are the best. If they're very good survivors. And that's just how DBD works, right? It's always going to be able to make yourself fight a 3v1 than a 4v1. So logically, out of like your moral or ethical standpoint on if it's mean to tunnel somebody out, right? Or statistically speaking, it's going to be better to kill 3 survivors versus killing 4 survivors. Or facing 3 survivors versus killing 4 survivors. Because if you only have 3 survivors, all of a sudden, you're chasing one person in a 4v1, that means 3 people are on gens. But if you're in a 3v1, you chase one person, that person goes down. All of a sudden, one person has to get off. The two people that are left working on gens has to get off and do the unhook, and then there leaves one person on the gen, and that's a significant help for the killer. So this is gonna make it hard to face better survivors. This change is basically gonna be buffing Swift significantly. So people who, I mean, even I do this when I'm playing with Kamui or I'm playing like with my 4 stack with both Britneys and Kamui. If the killer is camping or proxy camping, we will say, okay, they're camping. Let's just sit on gens, get as much progress on the gens, even if we can't complete the gen. Just get as much progress as we can on the gens done, and then at the last second go unhook. But this will give us time to go at the last second to unhook before going second. And then if it's like a desperate scenario where we know the killer's absolutely not going to leave the hook, we will just say, let them go to second stage, and we'll just work on the gens longer. Because honestly, if the killer's camping, not leaving the hook, you are free to have 3 people working on gens for 70 seconds if you let them go second. So while most people are upset if they get left to second stage, if your teammates are working 3 people on gens for 70 seconds, that's going to be 3 gens popping if they're on 3 separate gens. Because then 20 seconds into your second stage, that'll be 90 seconds. It takes 90 seconds to do a solo gen. They'll be able to rescue a 2-man save to get you off of hook after letting you go second, and then 3 gens have popped. And if you before you had gone down, if you had looped for maybe a gen or two, that could be all the gens completed. Like this is an insane change. I'm trying to like, describe that. I know I'm doing a lot of yapping, but it's it's extremely big. Total repair time of generate. Wait, some time ago, the total repair time of generators was increased. For the most part, this was a positive change, though it had the side effect of making camping more effective. Focusing on repairs was the best way the other survivors could counter camping, but with repairs taking longer, the survivors aren't able to get as much done with the hook survivor sacrificed. To combat this, we are increasing the duration of each hook phase to 70 seconds. This will a lot more time for survivors to repair if the killer chooses to camp the hook survivor. Yeah, and this will also punish killers for camping. Improve scratch mark visibility. Great change. Because honestly, there are some maps that just make it horrible to see. The grass just covers it all up. You can't see where they're going. Oh my god, look at this. That's significant. You see how bright that is? Running right here. That's a great change. Very good quality of life for killer. This is a very good. I would say this is quality of life, but this is way more impactful than seeing scratch marks better. Um, Tracking tool, but could be hard to see on some surfaces. We reviewed each map to ensure they have adequately visible. Midwich. No, please. Don't break my midwich. Remove breakable walls in the bathrooms. Oh. Wait, so that little secret route is now base kit. Wait, that's cool. So now the survivors have 3 staircases to get upstairs. Honestly, W change. Navigating the map could be difficult for those who don't have it memorized. The secret route is a trap. It's not anymore. They removed the breakable walls. All of them. So now no matter what, um, you can go up. So now there's technically 3 staircases. There's only 1 corner now. Which is good because there was times where I would need to get upstairs to unhook someone who was on the 2nd floor, right? But I was on the opposite corner from a staircase. But now there's 3 staircases. So this is a really good change. Altered layout of hallways to reduce long-range visibility. Added objects near exit gates to reduce visibility. Honestly, this doesn't ruin Midwich for me. This makes it better. I don't know what the altered layouts of hallways to reduce long-range visibility will be. I mean, maybe just for avoiding a Huntress hatchet in the hallway. If they do this, it is going to make Singularity horrible to play on Midwich because he's already struggles enough on Midwich. If you make hallways have clutter in them, good luck trying to tag somebody with a biopod. But this is a good change. The exit gates on Midwich are probably the hardest exit gates to escape in the entire map, so the fact that they're making it harder for the killer to check them and they have to get closer will be easier for the survivor to escape. And that's the end of it. Hallways used to have long line of sights, making it easy to spot approaching killers and difficult for survivors to hide. Okay, so I guess it's a good trade-off. The survivors can't just... Okay. To make harder to stand in the center of the map and monitor both gates at once. Okay. Um, Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite patches they've done in a while since the most recent one. Every patch they've been doing, very good. The most recent patch with all the perk buffs to the underused perks, I fucking loved it. They buffed Dredge, who is a relatively weak killer, an underused killer. They buffed him. He definitely deserved all of these. I don't see any of these being problematic. Doctor didn't really need it, but it's a good quality of life change. Nemesis did need this. This is a very good change. Um, I very much like this. I honestly wish they gave him some sort of add-on pass because some of his add-ons are just useless, and everyone's like, Nemesis add-ons suck. That this would be like the perfect time to do it. But perk changes, fantastic. Prestige change, fantastic. Hook stages, we'll have to see. This might be changed from P2B to live, maybe to like 65 seconds could be a good middle ground. Because that would give you 5 extra seconds to unhook somebody. Scratch marks, good change. Midwich, good change. All of it's good. I'm very excited. All but the twins patch. We don't talk about the twins patch, okay? We don't talk about the twins patch. Everything else is fantastic.